And so it's really those that are willing to trust the process, implement using my recommendations or my guidance, and take action. And then also, I would say add in like letting go of perfectionism, especially in the world we're in, working with high achievers. They want everything to be perfect. They want every I to be dotted and T to be crossed before they take action. And I'm like, no, just do it, right? It's okay. And learn from the mistakes as we go. I mean, that's pretty much been my whole philosophy in all my years as a coach is just keep going.
Welcome to the Coachability Code podcast. This is your host, Jordan Ring. Coaches, you ready to be coached? Let's go. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us yet again on the Coachability Code podcast. Today I have Lisa Klein with me. Lisa, thank you so much for being here. I'm pumped to hear what you have to say about coaching, coachability, and all of that stuff. But first, just if you could just introduce yourself briefly for the audience. And again, thank you for being here and spending your time with us.
Yes, of course. And thank you for having me. I so appreciate it. I am Lisa Klein, a business coach and process strategist. So I help my coaches, online service providers take all those ideas that are swirling in their head and turn them into a simple and clear, actionable plan.
No, I love that. That is so well surmised and well said. Okay, Lisa, I'm just going to ask you some icebreaker questions just to get into stuff. And then we'll get into more of what you do and who you help and coaching, coachability, and all that stuff. So if you could tell us favorite book, favorite movie, and one weird thing about you that you're okay with sharing and with people knowing.
Okay. So easy first is my favorite book is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Probably makes sense why I like that book so much, right? Taking small, consistent action to build sustainable habits that are just come second nature to you. So I read that book. I recommend that book. It's one of my all-time favorites. I can't say I have a favorite movie.
Okay.
I am more into the romantic comedies, less into the sci-fi thrillers, that sort of thing. But that probably also brings me into my weird. I do really love reality TV. So you throw Real Housewives, Bachelor, any of that, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm with you on the reality TV. There's something about it that is always like, why is this gripping me? And then I watch the whole thing, you know?
Exactly.
Like
It's such trash, but
yeah.
yeah.
I haven't like caught up to the recent seasons of Survivor because it's still going, but I've watched most of the seasons and there's almost 50 seasons by now. So something about it just grips you and pulls you right in.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for answering those. Always appreciate that. And it's always, especially the book. I mean, I've read Atomic Habits, but it's always a very selfish question because I love to know what other people are reading because I'll just add it. If I haven't read it, or if I haven't read it in a while, I'll add it to my list again. It's okay. Everyone's saying that. I think the last person, I don't remember who it was, but the last person I had on the podcast said the same thing, same book. I was like, maybe it's a sign I need to read that book again. So we'll see. All right, Lisa, you already introduced yourself briefly, but if someone comes up to you and say, hey, Lisa, what do you do? How do you answer that question? And you can go in as brief or as in-depth as you'd like.
Okay. So what I do is I help my clients really get from point A to point B. And typically they come to me knowing what point B is,
Okay.
but they've either been doing it so long themselves and not getting there. They're still down here and they know they want to get up there. They just haven't been able to do it for themselves, or they are just spending too much time. They're feeling burnt out. Or maybe they've even recently had a pivot of their own. I was in health coaching for 10 years before I pivoted into the world of business coaching. And actually, even before that, my first career out of school was in accounting and finance. So I've had my own pivots. So a lot of times people will come to me because they've recently had taken a leap, whether it's into entrepreneurial space or even just within and starting something new and really just need help getting them on that right path, taking that next step so they don't burn out, so they're not feeling so overwhelmed and having a partner by their side to do it with.
Yeah, I feel like that piece is super interesting because I always ask the question too, like, why does someone seek out your services? And we can talk more about that. But I don't think anyone has said before that like the person they're helping has a good idea of where they're going too. I think that seems very interesting. Have you found that to be like more specific to what you do, or have you seen that with other people as well? Because it sounds a little different, but maybe, maybe there are other people that work in that capacity too.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly for the people that I work with, high achieving women who have
Mm-hmm.
that vision. They
Mm-hmm.
have that goal in mind. They do, right? They've been dreaming about whatever it might be, the business they want, or the lifestyle that they want, the freedom that they want, especially in this entrepreneurial space. And they're just struggling to get there. And they need that, whether it's support, accountability, the direction to have somebody on the journey with them. So they don't feel so alone.
Yeah. And do those like that support and accountability, are there any other specific tasks or things that you help people with that people do come to you and they say, okay, Lisa, I'm stuck on XYZ, or I'm really like not sure how to, I know where I want to go, but I'm not sure about this specific piece? Or is it the more general, like they have a vision, but they don't even know which pieces to start with?
A little bit of
Okay.
everything. And then I think too, some people think it is right that launch, right? They're launching a new offer. And when they come, I'm like, okay, that's great, but let's kind of rewind. And it's kind of like the pre-launch phase of, and I'll throw it out there, creating a lead magnet, right? And that is typically the more clients that I've had come to me, they don't know that they need that yet.
Okay.
Again,
Yeah.
they're
Okay.
looking at the top of like, I'm going to sign my next 10 clients. And I'm like, okay, well, let's take a step back. How do we get there? And, it's not just showing up on LinkedIn or phoning a friend or doing one post. It really goes back to the beginning and creating that foundation for clarity, brand visibility, all the things.
Yeah, and since you brought it up, let's talk about that. I feel like you're the one person I hear probably more than anybody else talk about the lead magnet. And since this podcast is for coaches by coaches, let's talk a little bit about that. Maybe I'm curious, and you probably shared this on LinkedIn, but I can't remember exactly. What got you into focusing on that specifically? And why do you feel like that is such an important part for people that have a vision and that are trying to get to the next level? Like, why is that such an important piece?
Yeah, and I would start by saying like when we think of a lead magnet, like my thinking of a lead magnet might be a lot different to your listeners, where they're thinking of a PDF, a
Yeah.
download. And I'm like, oh no, like let's open the doors to any way that somebody can come into your ecosystem and they're handing over their email address because
Hmm.
right, we think about like what happens, you go to open LinkedIn, you go to open Instagram, Facebook, whichever social media platform you're on, and your account isn't there. You have now spent years building this audience, these connections, and now you have no way to connect with them, no way to communicate with them. So, what I call a lead magnet is a way to capture their email. So, onto a platform that you own that does not rely on the algorithm, does not rely on a platform that you don't own because you just never know what might happen.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because when I first came back to LinkedIn, my address was just my US address, and I live in Lisbon, Portugal now. So I switched everything. And I think that triggered something where my account got restricted for, I think it was a week or more. But imagine if that happened now, or the more you build something, very important topic for people to be aware of, because it can happen to LinkedIn, it happened to Instagram, it can happen to YouTube. I mean, whatever. If you are relying so much on one place or any of the places, these things can change. And yeah, it's
Mhm.
definitely important to have that consideration.
Yeah, and if you think about what coaches do and all the places there are so many opportunities for a lead magnet,
Hmm.
whether it's like being on a podcast, being a podcast guest, hosting a networking event, giving a workshop, something, out where a lunch and learn. There are so many different ways where it's like you don't want to just have that first impression of meeting somebody. You want to be able to leave them with something and have a
Hmm.
way to connect with them afterwards.
Yeah, I imagine it helps. So yeah, it helps with that follow-up piece too, which is another area that we could spend a whole podcast on probably of the
Exactly.
follow-up and the
Exactly.
connection points and all that. So yeah, okay, I love
Mhm.
that. Curious, as we're thinking about what you do in coaching, let's think about maybe let's say who is your best student, or you don't have to name anyone by names, but just if there's a story related to best student and what you what they brought to the table and how it was like working with them.
Yeah, I would say the best students all have one thing in common, and that is a willingness to trust the process.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, everybody wants instant results. They want that overnight success. And I'm like, well, okay, doesn't quite work that way. I can help you get there, but let's, right, go back, take a couple steps back. And so it's really those that are willing to trust the process, implement using my recommendations or my guidance, and take action.
hmm
And then also, I would say add in like letting go of perfectionism, especially in the world we're in, working with high achievers. They want everything to be perfect. They want every
hmm
I to be dotted, T to be crossed before they take action. And I'm like, no, just do it, right? It's okay. And learn from the mistakes as we go. I mean, that's pretty much been my whole philosophy in all my years as a coach is just keep going.
Yeah. No, I love that too. And it's amazing how often I see that too when I'm working with people and helping them write their books. That block of, yeah, it's imposter syndrome, but it's also that fear of launching something and putting something out there that's not completely perfect. And yeah, it's just something you just have to get over it, really. But you do have to at least start putting things out there.
Yeah, and I think too, and having this coaching relationship, that's the one thing I love is like I fully believe in my clients and sometimes I believe in them and their success before they believe it in themselves. But for
hmm
them to get there, it's like, okay, you do have to take action. You have
hmm
to build that momentum and then you'll have the confidence and be like, oh yeah, I did that thing and wasn't perfect, but I got a client from it or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and I don't want to jump to like the worst student question yet because I think there's like that middle ground. And I'm curious if you have a story of someone who came in, maybe they came in super excited or they came in kind of gung ho and they were ready to go. I know it's so common where people get tripped up by that fear of whatever the fear is, if it's fear of perfectionism or imposter syndrome or whatever. Like, how have you kind of worked with people that have that fear?
I think it's more of okay, they launched something and they didn't see those immediate results.
Mm,
So then they have that I'm a failure.
hmm
And so it's being able to work through that, be like, okay, well, this didn't work. Reassess like what happened there. Where was the breakdown? And even if it's like, let's say mid-launch, what else can you do? What is it going back to DMing more people? Is it not just the emails or is it the subject lines, your open rates, right? There's so many
Yeah,
different things that you can audit instead of just saying, oh, well, that didn't work and I'm going to scrap the whole thing and I'm going
yeah.
to come up with a new idea and start a whole new offer. It's kind
And do
of
you think,
talking people off the ledge a bit.
yeah, and do you think with that, I've had to do this when I worked with people that have done their book launches, there's a certain process of setting the expectation of trying to catch people before they think, okay, well, I'm definitely going to sell 10,000 copies on day one. And then they don't come right out and say that. But sometimes there is this thinking, and whether it's propagated by their own thinking or they see people online talking about you see mostly only the successful launches,
Mhm.
right? That people share about. You don't see all the behind the scenes people that have struggled. And that struggle is more common than people realize because it's so hard to launch something. So I'm just curious, do you talk with them at all about the expectations and how would you go about that conversation?
Yes, absolutely. And that's typically something upfront too when we're building out a launch
hmm
plan. It depends if it's something high ticket, one-on-one coaching or a group program. Obviously, the numbers fluctuate, but setting realistic expectations for sure and
Yeah.
benchmarks too along the way. Okay, here's your open cart date, here's the end date. Like at what point, where do you want to be? And I think that's the hardest thing too, is during a launch like that that has like an open and closed cart date is most people buy or tend to buy at the end. So in the beginning, people aren't seeing those results. They're like, well, I wanted 10 people into this group program, and right now I have one person. This is where you've got to keep that energy up
Yeah. Yeah.
and keep going because it's usually the day before, the day that cart closes, where you'll see an influx of people because you're doing more to market. You need to build that trust. You need to have those follow up touch points and phone calls too, especially in this right trust recession that we're in it here.
Yeah.
This market's a lot different than it used to be.
And I think that my next question is kind of totally a tangent, but I like where we're going with this and this discussion. So just thinking about people that I've helped with book launches in the past, I had to set that expectation. And there was so much work. Maybe this is specific to books. You can tell me if it's related to other launches, but there's so much work that goes into creating the materials that by the time someone goes to launch it, their energy is kind of gone. And I saw that so often. And as much as I could, I tried to stay excited with them and support them. But as a coach through that process, that was difficult for me because I saw them at that launch day, exactly what you said. They maybe got a few sales right away or whatever it was, or the reviews didn't come in as fast as they wanted to. And yeah, it takes time and it takes effort after you build it to keep on going. I'm just curious too if you found that to be similar, or maybe that's changing too.
No, absolutely. And I think where I've seen it more is where people do a 3-day challenge or a 5-day challenge, like a something for a free workshop or free masterclass
Hmm.
as their lead magnet to something bigger.
Hmm.
And the time and effort and energy they put into that, it's like right with a 3-day challenge, by the end of day 2, they're like, oh, I don't even know if I can make it to day 3. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
but day 3 is still part of it and you're not
Yeah.
even
Let's
there.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's hard to go in and finish out that because it's a lot of work to put those things on and to
Yes.
do any kind of launch for anyone that has experienced that or is anyone that's planning that and know that if you haven't experienced, know that it is a lot of work and there's
Yeah.
no shame in getting help with that from someone like you, Lisa, or someone that does what you do because it's a big job to
Yeah.
launch anything. So
Yeah, it's funny because I've had people say, "Okay, well, I'm gonna do a monthly free masterclass," and I'm like, "No, you're not. That takes work, and you're
yeah.
always gonna be constantly in this promotion phase." I'm like, well, "How about quarterly?" Right? It's like so
Yeah.
set those expectations up front as like how much work it does. Like start with one and see what you feel is reasonable to
Yeah.
continue on.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about if you've had any students that have struggled in the process, or maybe I know sometimes people come in and there's red flags and maybe we don't work with them, and that's okay. Or the fit, it just isn't right. That's also okay. But curious if you started with anyone and maybe if you've had those difficulties and found success and been able to have some breakthrough moments with people. I'm curious what that would look like.
I would say for me personally, just uh, what I've learned through the years, especially when I first started my coaching business, was like, "Oh, you want to work with me? Sure, great. Like,
Yeah.
here you go. Let's go." But really being able to be upfront and establish those boundaries of, okay, these are my working hours, and making sure it's a fit for both of us, that
Hmm.
there is that mutual respect. I think the hardest thing too is when I'm in a coaching relationship, I invest so much into my clients and my students that it's like they become part of my world, and not having that mutual respect is hard. So
Hmm.
those old red flags that that I ignored in the past, now I'm like, okay, got it. This isn't going to be a good fit for us, and
Yeah.
kind of be okay saying no, thank you.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I feel like we just learn those things in time. You can read a book or read a post about red flags to avoid, but there's something about having your own experiences and seeing that for yourself. Like you could probably get a coach to help you through that and like watch those things. But yeah, it's difficult to fully realize how they can impact you until you've gone through at least something that pokes at it, I feel.
For sure.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, it's just you wish you could be like, okay, I had this list. I'm good. I never had any of those experiences, but how like that's just mostly not the case for people that have gone through it. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Let's talk about if there's any breakthrough moments for clients, maybe big wins. Curious what that looks like for what you've done, and then what brought that on. Was it something that they did? Was it something simple you said, or what did that look like? If you
Mhm.
can think of any.
Wow. Yeah, scrolling back through the years. But I think that, I mean, for me, I get really excited, like for any win, big or small. So especially those like who've launched a master, I don't know, I'm going to call it launch. But yeah, I'll call it launch, a
Yeah, sure.
master class, even if it was a free, right? A lead
Hmm.
magnet, and they've had, setting expectations. They're like, okay, 20, like I'm going to set it, it's free, it's 20, but they've had, 38 opt-ins, and then even set up 2 discovery calls before the masterclass even happened. So things like that just get me excited. And again, anytime anybody, whether they're launching or not, or it's something free they're downloading, they're adding into their network, or having a discovery call, or signing a new client, all of those to me because get me excited because their success is my success. And more so, like, even going back to that mindset shift, having those conversations where they start feeling that confidence in themselves. And it doesn't have to be over a client signing up or any big win, but just having them be able to communicate and reiterate things that we've said, that I've said to them, where they're now putting it into their own voice, where you can hear it in them that they have that confidence. They're kind of pushing away those fears and the self doubt and being like, I can show up in video, I can host a masterclass, I can be a guest on a podcast, and just putting themselves out there, because sometimes that fear is bigger than they realize.
Yeah, and I love that because to me, those almost intangibles, there's so much value there that I think some people don't see that, and they don't feel that that matters as much as, okay, I got 38 opt-ins and I had those 2 discovery calls. Okay, those are great. Any results you get that are tangible like that are fantastic. But I'm with you. I almost think those intangibles are almost more valuable for launching and putting anything out there. Like you said, you get better at communicating your ideas. Me interviewing people for this podcast, you coming on this podcast and other podcasts, just the mere action of doing that helps you to be a better communicator and think about what you do. When you get asked questions, you say, oh, okay, that's interesting. And you start to think, I could do a post on that. You can build it from there. So I'm glad you said that, because I find so much value in that part of the coaching experience, almost more than the actual results for anything that you're trying to accomplish. Of course, we want to get the results for our clients, right? But like, still having those intangibles are just, to me as a coach, that's what I find to be the most gratifying too.
For sure. And I feel like that's the piece that allows them to keep going, right? So it's like, even when the services that I provide are done, that transformation in them is what allows them to keep going and continue to be successful.
Yeah. And how amazing is that to be a part of that experience too?
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Lisa, just thinking about your own coaching experience, maybe in the past few years, have there been areas that you have been coached? And then what have you learned through that experience?
I had different coaches kind of through every season of,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say season of my life, but close enough. So when I first started out, when I was creating like a new signature program, I had a business coach for that, to create that signature offer. Also one to like how to show up on social media. This was back in the Instagram days. And then I also had a LinkedIn strategy and sales coach, for when I was like, okay, I'm done with Instagram. I'm going to close the book over there. And I wanted to network in a new way. And LinkedIn was something totally new for me. So I did have a LinkedIn strategy and sales coach when I joined the platform approaching my 2-year anniversary. So
Amazing. And maybe just pick one of those specifically, if there's any major lessons you learned through that, or what was it, just the coaching experience that you knew you're like, okay, I need help with this, so I'm going to do this. But yeah.
I would say yes, because I actually, when I was health coaching, I had a business coach, and I feel like so much that I learned from her is what I use now and implement, not so much on like lead magnets and that sort of thing, but more of the mindset and how I show up for my clients and how I can help them through their processes and systems. Kind of like in each stage, it was like becoming that next version of myself, like, or just giving people new ideas and new possibilities of, right, you get so focused on, well, this coach is doing it this way, so that means I have to do it like them. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
okay, how do we think outside the box and what works for you? Because success looks different for everybody. And our businesses are different. We're different. How we show up is different. So having coaches like that really kind of challenged the status quo, it kind of stretched me in places to get out of my comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
It gets really comfortable here in my office.
Yeah. It's nice.
So being able to kind of take those pieces to also provide that to my clients as well.
Yeah. And I just think coaches need to be coached. And I feel that because, I mean, I've learned so much from the people that I've worked with, and it's in specific areas, not even related to what I do. It could be a completely separate thing, like the health coach I worked with, or the style coach that I had last year that I shared about on LinkedIn. I was able to take some of the stuff that, wow, they are really good at what they do. Okay, what can I take from them and implement? So it's fun to go through the process, but you also learn so much. Again,
Yeah,
like I think you gain intangibles too of that coaching experience. So
sure.
yeah, let's talk about a question that I like to ask because I know coaches are interested in this. What has been successful for you in growing your coaching business? If you could say it was like one or two things, or if there's something that's working recently.
Well, I should probably say lead magnets,
Yeah,
right?
let's talk about it more.
I'll put a plug in there for that. But no,
Sure.
I mean, honestly, I really do think it all comes down to building relationships, and lead magnets are one way to do that.
Hmm.
LinkedIn and just showing up consistently, showing up as yourself and not trying to be like anybody else. But most importantly, I have really, really loved is a strong word, but right, like love being on LinkedIn for the
Hmm.
relationships and the connections that I've formed, and not being afraid to reach out to people no matter like what their title says, or if something resonates with you, comment on them, message them, find a way to be able to have a virtual coffee chat with them. But I think for me, and like especially now in the state of the world and economy and all that is happening in the coaching space too, and we talked about this trust recession, it
Hmm.
really comes back to the relationships, the connections that you formed, and how to kind of make yourself stand out in the noise that is social media right now.
Yes, and that it feels like that trust piece has always been important, but it does feel even more important now
Mhm.
for whatever reason. And maybe like you said, it's the trust recession or part of that, but it just does feel like if we do anything right, it's building that trust and being around. What does that look like, right? We could talk more about that too. Like it looks like showing up consistently more than anything, being yourself, being authentic, and relating to people. Then that's
Mhm.
how I see it. But I think it could be more complex, but it's also just as simple as that, right?
Yeah, right. As simple as being
Yeah.
kind, be supportive. I mean, that's really what my whole philosophy is like, no matter what, whether you're a client or not, like I'm going to
Hmm.
support you because that's just what I believe in. I will be your biggest cheerleader. I will be your ride or die. And again, whether you're a client or user or competitor, I mean, I want everybody to succeed. I don't know, maybe I'm different, but I'll
Yeah.
cheer you on no matter what.
No, and I'll say anyone listen to this, I mean, you can share your LinkedIn at the end, but definitely say like definitely check out Lisa because your comments are amazing. They're authentic, they're you, and your posts are very good as well. And I always find that they're so specific to what you do. And I find that to be so good. You're able to like share different posts, but still talk about lead magnets and still talk about what you want to talk about. And I think because some people struggle with that, they say that I don't know what to post on LinkedIn, or they'll say, I don't know how to comment. And the answer to the question is what you just said of just be a human, be nice and be real. Like if you were reading that in person and talking to that person live, just tell them, write down what you would tell them in person. Like I know we make it sound easy, especially we have practice doing it. And I know for some people it is hard. I don't want to put it out there that this is so easy that everyone should just be able to figure it out because it takes some time to get used to it. But it also doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It's just talking to people. And similar, it could be with the post. Just share what you do, right? That's the basis. And then, there's more advanced steps from there, but just talk about what you do with people.
Well, I appreciate that feedback from a copywriter because I'm definitely
Yeah.
no, but I do feel like I've learned a lot in my how many ever year 11 plus years
Hmm.
writing on social media, different platforms, obviously. But and it's one of the things too when I'm on client sessions and my clients will be talking. I'm like, okay, there's a post. They're like,
Yeah.
what? I'm like, yep, you just hear it now. It
Yeah.
just becomes more natural. You can never run out of content ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because as you get started, and another reason to do coaching, another reason to start talking about more about what you do or do podcasting is it's only going to grow exponentially from there in the amount of stories you can tell. And the more you talk about it, the easier the easier it is to go and do a post or write a comment or something like that. That feels easier once you're like, I did a bunch of podcasts. I'm just sharing my story all the time.
Yes. Yes.
All right, Lisa, let's talk about if you want to stand on it, let's talk about your soapbox. So I always want to make sure the people coming on this show get a chance to share what's on their heart, to be able to say something. We've already talked about lead mags, and I want to make sure you were able to talk about that. But if there's anything else that you want to make sure you want to talk about to the audience, whether it's coaching, coachability, or anything related to LinkedIn, life, anything that you do?
Wow. I would say we covered a lot. We covered lead magnets.
Yeah.
We covered being kind. And also I would just add in there, keep it super simple, right?
Hmm.
We don't need to overcomplicate it. You don't need to overcomplicate your posts. You don't need to overcomplicate your offers. And you have all these ideas, and it's how do you break them down? And that's what I help my clients do is break them down to take that small, consistent step, going back to atomic habits, right? That one simple step that will keep you going. That is simple doesn't mean small. It can also mean sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because it's simple, it's clear, and doesn't have to be. And I think people can work it up in their heads like this is going to be so difficult for me, and that prevents you from starting. Where it's just you just do it and do something, and then you realize, okay, maybe even if what I just did was not very good, the next step can be better. Or oh, okay, I can go fix that. There's very little that's so permanent that you can't go and fix either.
Mhm, mhm. Yep. Something is always better than nothing. Yep.
Yeah. Even a book you can go in and do another edit of. And maybe if the podcast is live or something like that, maybe that's where you can't always go back and change things. But yeah, you could change the recording, and I don't know. There's not as many there's consequences obviously with creating things. We're all human and we're not going to be perfect anyway. And as long as you can say, okay, well, that's not really what I meant to say, or I didn't mean it that way. Hopefully most people will have that
Yep.
conversation with you. So
Always
yeah.
learning and growing.
Yeah. All right, Lisa. Well, this has been an amazing episode. If there's anything else you want to share, please do. But otherwise, where can people find you and where can people connect with you? And then where can people learn more about the lead magnet specifically? Because I love that we have a very specific action step with that.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn at Lisa Klein. My website is Lisa Klein Co., just all one word, spelled just like Calvin, Klein. And so you'll find I have a lead magnet 4-week program on my website, and I'm running a workshop on October 22nd. Not sure when this will be aired, but it's called Create Your Lead Magnet Live. And I'm sure I'm going to be offering it again come January. So whether October or January, the lead magnet workshop will be available.
Awesome. And is there a link to where they could sign up for like the recording of that or?
There will be on my
Okay.
website.
Okay. So it's Lisa Klein Co. or Lisa Klein.co.
Nope. It's
Just Lisa.
lisakleincode.com.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. Well, amazing overall. Is there anything else that you want to share with us today? And if not, super appreciate your time. I loved what we covered. I think it was amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Sure thing. No problem at all. Are you still here listening to this podcast? You're awesome. I got 2 CTAs for you. Number 1, subscribe to this podcast for more. And number 2, have you ever thought about writing a book? Contact Jordan. He can help you out. Jordan@jmring.com.